Welcome to another edition of the 49er Goldcast.
San Francisco, are you ready? Bam! Welcome to another edition of the 49er Goldcast. This is the Bay Area fan perspective. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis the First, baby.
And our esteemed co-host,
Old Man Davis.
Boom, boom, boom. Week 4 is in the books. 49ers at home versus the Packers. Won the last 4 meetings in a row. This one would unfortunately not turn out as good, and unfortunately turned out pretty much as we expected, with the Packers winning the game 17-3. Kaep looked out of sorts all over the place. It was a rough one. I really put this squarely on the offense, and in particular Kaep's mechanics and the O-line. But as always, let's start with you, Raymond. Your thoughts on the game.
Well, it wasn't a total destruction like the previous 2 weeks. I think the defense came out and played really, really well. The problem is that the offense couldn't sustain any drives. And by the third and fourth quarter, they were just burnt out physically. And you're not going to be able to stop anybody when you're tired. And I don't blame the defense for that at all. That's squarely on the offense, not giving the defense enough time to rest with all of these short 3-and-outs, 5-and-outs, 6-and-outs. I mean, the only 2 notable plays was the first one was in the second quarter, and that was that quick toss in motion to Quentin Patton, which resulted in a 40-yard run. And then the second one was in the fourth quarter, and that was on a 3rd and long, and that was after the Niners were trying to find some sign of offense after Kaep's missed underthrows and overthrows, and he was from the shotgun, and then he threw deep to Torrey Smith, and he made that really great over-the-shoulder grab for a 47-yard completion. But outside of those 2 plays, there was really nothing noteworthy that San Francisco did. Hyde kept getting stuffed, and even though he had a couple of yards that were like 7 and 9 respectively, he still had a bunch that were stuffed on the line, and he ended up resulting in negative yardage. And he didn't even have 50 yards on the day. So, I mean, the offense just – Kaep played scared. He didn't play conservative. He didn't play cautious. Maybe that's the wording he's going to use to excuse himself from not wanting to make mistakes to give up the ball. Yeah, I get it. Great. You didn't give up the ball, but you did at the very end. But at the same time, you played so scared because you don't trust your offensive line that you're completely out of rhythm with all your throws. And then when you make your throws, you're afraid of the pick, so you underthrow it in an attempt to avoid the pick, but then you kill the play, which is just as bad. So, I mean, obviously the pick sixes and the 4 picks in the previous game are one thing. I'd rather take the underthrows than the no picks, but the thing is, you got to pick it up. You got to step up. Look at Rodgers in the pocket. When the pocket breaks down, he still tries to make the play, and he usually does. Russell Wilson, another guy who's not really known for being a prolific passer, but when he does have to make those plays, he's usually pretty darn consistent about making those plays. Kaepernick, on the other hand, just gets flustered and either just runs or he overthrows and underthrows.
Okay, that's the thing I want to talk is that we're watching Kaep fail at routine Pop Warner level passes. And I mean, maybe that sounds a little harsh, and maybe that don't you start, Old Man Davis. Maybe that was a bit of an
He laughed because that's
exaggeration.
something he would have said.
I know, it's true.
So way to go. You're now echoing Old Man Davis.
I know. You know you're in trouble on the Goldcast when you're echoing Old Man Davis. Be on the lookout, because as I guest host on Old Man Davis's The Raiders Silvercast, coming out never.
Are you done
I'm
already?
about to be done. I'm going to say one more thing. Normally when Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are commentating on a 49er game, I want to cut my eyes out. But they did say one thing that I thought was very poignant. Joe Buck said, nobody is trusting anybody. And nobody is making a play when they have the chance. That's what he said in response to the 49ers. Troy Aikman also said on one of the last awful passes Kaep threw, right to the ankles. I don't even remember who it was to. The whole game's becoming a blur. He threw at someone's ankles and the crowd booed. And Troy Aikman said it looked like Kaep was seeing ghosts out there. And does it ever? This is the 2nd straight season he's looked overwhelmed. Old Man Davis, you always have a lot to say about Kaep. I pass it off to you.
And I'm running scared. I'm running scared for my life on the Goldcast. I want to stay positive about this. It's very hard knowing across the bay a lot of positive going on over there.
Oh, really? 2-2? You just lost to the Bears? Yeah, that's positive.
You know what? You guys want to stick around longer? After the Goldcast, we're going to be talking on the Silvercast, where all we do is just talk silver and black.
Hey, how do you like the company at the bottom of the barrel? Now we're here with you again.
Silvercast.
The only positive to this game against the Packers was that the San Francisco defense, who kept the 49ers in this game to the end, holding the Packers to less than 20 points. They made it a point. They worked so well, having the right kind of pass rush. Congratulations to that man, Aaron Lynch, for keeping Aaron Rodgers humble for the win. But let's look at the San Francisco offense. The pass offense obviously is on hiatus. I mean, you busted man-on-man coverage on all levels for the offense. You throw the ball and protect the quarterback. That's what the offense should be doing, and they're not doing that. They're totally out of sync and absent.
But didn't I talk about that from the beginning, old man Davis?
You did. I'm saying it
that from preseason.
I'm saying it now, and I'm glad that you're agreeing with me.
No, you're agreeing with me. Let's get that right.
Additionally, we need to consider the quarterback is not giving guys an opportunity to make plays.
Neither is the offensive line.
No, and you're right. You're right. I mean, the offensive line is a big part of it. Definitely is probably the biggest progenitor of the offensive problems.
But I'm referring to the guys that are making direct impacts in plays. We're talking about what you see in the body language in number 7, the chemistry on the field and on the sideline with the receivers, the running backs, and the quarterback. Bad balls, poor throws, misconnections. All for what and by who? Number 7. It doesn't matter if the offense is simplified or complex. Jeep Christ, for all due credit, it obviously is a different system than Greg Roman. But look, this is a game of professionals. You can only hold number 7's hand for so long. You see a wide receiver open and your job is to throw the ball. You have to be held accountable. And if I could just talk to Colin, I'd say to him, just trust your O-line. Stay in pocket. Follow through on your technique, the layups, the basic, and the ball will find the receiver. Or the other way around.
Yeah, but how can he trust his O-line when his O-line isn't giving him any reason to have trust in them?
Look, Steve Young did it. Brett Favre did it. The greats do it. Joe Flacco does it. Doesn't matter.
He needs to keep trying to make plays. Rodgers and Russell Wilson are great examples of guys who do that today, and he's not doing that. I mean, we've seen him do it before, but right now he's thinking about that sack before he even gets into his progressions.
I want the fans of San Francisco and the red and gold to have a faith and let's make a united front.
You know that the Goldcast is in dire straits when we're talking about how awful Cap's playing and old man Davis is talking about a united front with the 49er fan base. We're like in Bizarro World. This is Cast Gold. This isn't Goldcast. It's Cast Gold.
The fans expected a game in Santa Clara, and what they got was Pee-wee.
We got something.
Yeah, it was rough.
You know what the fans got?
Go, Pack, go!
Oh, man, I heard that too.
Snapping a 4-game loss against the San Francisco 49ers. The Packers were very strong and stout on that D-line. And I thought their secondary did an excellent job in keeping up with Smith and Bolden, holding that offense to just 109 total pass yards.
Don't forget we only held Aaron Rodgers to 1 touchdown pass.
And under 300 yards passing.
In fact, all those exits on the defense, and Aaron Rodgers still doesn't play that good against the 49er D. In fact, his only touchdown pass came from a horrible defensive penalty that allowed their drive to continue. If not, they'd have been 3 and out on that first run right there.
Well, clearly he can only kick a horse when it's down.
Boom.
So here we are talking about a quarterback that knows how to throw a ball and that won the game. Let's talk about a running back that didn't even show up.
Came up short, didn't get it done. Green Bay Packers played a heck of a football game.
All right, the Packers can finally add Carlos Hyde to the list of shutting down running backs and holding them under 100 yards. Mr. Hyde, 8 carries for 20 yards.
Came up short.
Man, I think we miss an old running back that plays for the Indianapolis Colts.
Or we just miss an offensive line that can block.
Yeah, and I don't want to hear anything about the Packers defense because the Pack has never had a good defense. They only had a good defense once when they won the 2010 Super Bowl, and that was it.
All right, there you go. Underestimating a defense that shut you guys down.
They didn't shut us down. We shut ourselves down.
I like that, Ray. Anybody can shut you down.
That's how bad we are. It's not that they're so good. It's just that we're that bad.
Why don't you take some of your brother's medicine, Rudy? You might actually learn something about this red and gold team.
I've said that. I'm totally admitting that the offense played terrible. I put it on Cap and the O-line shoulders. In fact, here, I'll even take it a step further. This will make you great, old man Davis. You're going to love this, okay? We're talking about the O-line and how the O-line is failing Cap so bad. Well, look at all of the pressure we put Aaron Rodgers under, and they still managed to pull it off. Why can't Cap do it? Why is he missing basic plays to wide open receivers? Why are those passes failing? Raymond, I want to hear the answer to that. Why Why are Kaepernick's passes failing? Well, is it just that he's playing scared? Is this pure psychological? Is there anything wrong with the mechanics, or is he completely in his head right now?
This past week was just him playing scared. Him not wanting to make the same mistakes he made against Arizona. And it's a combination of that plus not trusting his line that's going to get. He's already has the mindset that says, hey, I'm not going to get the pass protection I need, so I'm just going to have to either run or I'm going to be forced to throw faster than I want to. And so when you have that mindset, then you have overthrows and you have underthrows because you're like, all right, I got to throw this out of rhythm, so I might as well overthrow it. That way the defender can't get it. Instead of thinking, let me just try to get this to the receiver wherever he's at and just making the throw. You got to be instinctive and intuitive. That's how Rodgers and Russell play. He just can't do that. I'm not sure if he's ever going to be able to do that. And I hate to admit that, but at this point, what are you going to do? I get it. You're getting sacked, you're getting pushed around, and you're on pace. This team is on pace for 56 sacks, which is more than last year, based on the current trajectory.
Isn't that a franchise record, or is that like a...
That would be a franchise record if they allow that. It really does need to start with the offensive line. As bad as Kaep is playing, the bad play from the offensive line is influencing that. At the same time, Kaep needs to own up and take responsibility too.
I think he does, but I think instead of shaking it off...
Excuses.
No, but I feel like instead of shaking it off and erasing his memory and coming back the next day and being Kaep who kisses the bicep, it just is starting to wear on him, and he's just carrying it on his shoulders, and it's just like, you've got to let it go. We need to get Tony Robbins out to talk to him or something.
Hey, that's like $1.5 million to get him to do one-on-one.
Hey, he signed that big old contract. I'm sure he can afford it.
He's got the money to do it. That's my point.
Tax deferred.
Hey, if it's all for the sport, he can write the whole thing off. Tony Robbins, we need you to make a trip to San Francisco.
Do something. Jesus.
Old Man Davis, I turn the question to you. Is it the mechanics? Is it completely mental? I mean, what can be done? Where is the breakdown in Colin Kaepernick right now?
I'd like to suggest that we get back Andy Lee. He's a critical.
Pinion's not doing that great either, but what does that have to do with it?
Probably number 7's inability to depend on a punter on that fourth down. Maybe Pinion's not doing it.
Now he's just being cute.
Well, you asked me, so that's my thoughts.
Gentlemen, I'm going to leave you with some rough stats. I have to admit I was pretty disappointed. You know, we have two Colin Kaepernicks. We have the first season and a half, kissing the bicep, read option, lost the Super Bowl, but still is a beast though. And then we have this second Colin Kaepernick, a tale of two Kaeps. And now this second Kaep is kind of disappointing. And I'm gonna read the season stats. We're gonna leave it at this. Season stats for Kaep: 2 touchdowns all year, 5 interceptions for the year, 13.5 sacks for the year. His completion percentage in order thus far for each game, starting from week 1 to now: 65.38, 71.74, 47.37, 52.0. All right, moving on. Our first topic of discussion was inspired by Lowell Cohn's article for the Press Democrat. I've never even heard of the Press Democrat, just an aside. Raymond, do you know?
Real website?
Apparently it is. The Press Democrat. Its title says it all. The title is, quote, Jed York deserves all the blame. He blames Jed York for the firing of Jim Harbaugh, which obviously, and the subsequent mass exodus of players and coaching staff, including defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. Finally, somebody calls that one out. I was screaming my head off forever about that one. And offensive line coach Vic Solari, who, coincidentally, is currently working for the Green Bay Packers, the team that just beat us 17-3. The article also took some scathing shots at Trent Baalke. He mentions first-round picks Mike Iupati, Anthony Davis, Alden Smith, A.J. Jenkins, Eric Reed, Jimmy Ward, and Eric Armstead as first-round picks who are no longer on the team or are producing at a first-round level. He bashed the choosing of Marcus Martin, but then goes back to York for keeping Baalke over Harbaugh in general. So I want to ask, we're going to start with you, Old Man Davis, being that this is a very harsh critique on a professional football owner. You know, you have had critiques lobbied at you from time to time, very sparingly, once in a great while, something was said. So I want to hear what your thoughts are on Jed York. Does he deserve all the blame? Is it really all his fault where we're at right now?
First off, I'd like to just set the record straight. There may be a reason why you don't know about the Press Democrat, right?
Oh, yeah?
It's actually the first newspaper ever in Santa Rosa in 1857, which you wouldn't know anything about because you guys were born 5 years ago.
Is that right?
Yes. Lastly, you probably wouldn't even know, and I'm sticking up for the Santa Rosians out there that bleed red and gold. Unlike most other major newspapers, the Press Democrat has literally grown up with the area it serves. As Northern California continues to develop into the 21st century, so too will the Press Democrat. Now that we got that out of the way,
Yeah, I hope they're sponsoring us.
I'd like to think Jed York, as young as and naive and inexperienced he is, will one day come to appreciate words of wisdom from people like myself, Old Man Davis, that can share some wisdom of just saying this. Mind your P's and Q's. Put the Twitter gun down. Stop using social media as your outlet to communicate to your fans, to the 49ers, and to the rest of the world, the NFL, what your intentions are, who you are, what you plan on executing, because it doesn't matter. Words mean nothing, and especially in the Twitter world. It's just bytes that mean nothing once it's already dispersed and sent. I know this because I have a son, Mark Davis, who now runs the Oakland Raiders organization. And what has he done? Given his lack of experience, he's hired somebody with experience. He's accepted the fact that he has no experience. And he sits and lets the people that know what they're doing do their job. In the case of Jed York, Trent, yes, he's doing his job, but yet I still feel Jed should be held accountable. Accountable for the actions he's already committed, and for what he's leaving Trent to decide on, it still comes down to him, Mr. York, a man who comes from a family who's inherited the 49ers responsibilities and leading and leadership, and you can only just leave it to the top. That's all it comes down to. He allowed himself to go ahead and let Jim Harbaugh go, and he's allowed himself to go ahead and accept Jim Tomsula, who I would probably say isn't ready to be a head coach yet, to go ahead to be that coach of the 2015 season. So with that said, Ray, we'll take it off and lead it to you.
Well, I can't believe Old Man Davis actually believes an owner should take some responsibility for a team failing. That is not status quo for you. Anyways, Raymond, your thoughts on this article?
It's definitely bashing, and I don't think it's completely over the top, but it certainly is a little baity. I do think none of Balky's first-round picks are impact players for the 49ers right now. Right now they're not, because obviously Upati, Davis, Smith, with the exception of Jimmy Ward, Eric Reed, and Eric Armstead, are no longer with the team. However, 4 of those 7 players were Pro Bowlers their first year. So I don't know if he's talking about right now versus overall, but the point is Balky's picks, he's pretty consistent at picking some pretty good players at certain positions. Offensive line, he does excellent in. Linebacker, he does great. And safeties, he's typically good in. The place where I see that him continuously struggling is in the wide receiver and cornerback position. I'm not exactly sure what adjustments he needs to make, maybe the parameters that he's looking for and before selecting, but perhaps there needs to be some adjustments there because we have been shooting in the dark in those positions with the exception of free agency hires. As far as, but going back to York, he grew up privileged. He was kind of naive. He's arrogant. And yeah, he's on a big pedestal and he thinks he's part of the big boy club now, which technically he is by default. Because you're an owner, you are part of the NFL Owners Club. But the point is, he does not operate the 49ers on the level that they have been. He hasn't held the expectation that his predecessors set, and he hasn't maintained that. With the exception of the Jim Harbaugh hire, he's been off every other time. So he's got one good hire under his belt. He's got the GM, of course, which bodes in his favor. However, you need winning seasons at the end of the day. And the point is, no matter how much blame we put on York, I can't hold him accountable. He says, hey, hold me accountable. Okay, how the hell am I supposed to do that? I can't bill a guy a check. We can't bill him as fans and say, hey, we want our money back from last week's crappy game. We can't do that. There's no way for us to technically hold him accountable, even though he said, hold me accountable. So it doesn't matter how much blame we put onto him. I would not put any stock into Jed York being removed from his position and have somebody else come in anytime soon, because it's not the way that these things work. Typically, you go from the ground up. The coaches get fired first, and if it continues to swell over there, then the NFL owners have to come in and make a change. That's a group thing, a committee thing. Typically doesn't happen very often. Usually they have to resign or something like that. But I don't see York leaving anytime soon. So, unfortunately, 49er faithful, we are stuck with York. For how long? I have no idea. But I do know that they are billionaires now because of Levi Stadium.
It's a trickle-down system. It starts with York. It starts with the exit of Harbaugh. He never foresaw the exodus of all those players. Nobody could. And who knows? Who's to say that it wouldn't have been stayed this bad had Harbaugh still been on the team? If he was still coaching the team, maybe a couple of them would have stayed. Who knows? It's impossible to tell at this point. But I think I will also agree that there are some things he kind of glosses over. He criticizes Balky and York for not getting stronger coordinators underneath Jim Tom Sula, and that's not true. They actually went for some very high-profile coordinators. But I don't understand what made them think that anybody was going to want to come play for a line coach. I don't know why they thought that was going to be a good selling point.
That was part of the problem, is because Niners wouldn't budge. They said, hey, you got to if you want to come head coach for us, you got to keep these people on here, and you have to promote these persons. And the people like Adam Gase, he said, no, I want to come in there and I want to bring in my own staff, because that's typically what the protocol is when you bring in a new head coach. He gets the right to choose his staff, his supporting staff, because you want, as a head coach, you want to choose the guys that are proven, that that you trust, that you work well with, that you have a rapport with. And you don't necessarily want to be thrown into a situation where you don't have that kind of leverage. And so that works against you as a coach in the NFL. And the 49ers were not willing to budge on that. And that's hurt them. That hurt all the major candidates they wanted before they settled on hiring from the inside.
Yeah, they did not anticipate that, and it came back to bite them pretty intensely. So quite the bummer. I do blame a lot of this on York. In Old Man Davis, like you said, putting the Twitter gun down, he really shot himself in the foot with some of these statements. The Steve Kerr comparison, the Jim Tom Sula, Steve Kerr comparison. He meant Jim Tom Sula coaches the team exactly how Steve Kerr would coach the team. If we actually pulled Steve Kerr out of the NBA and had him coach this 49ers team, then I agree with him. Yes, this is exactly what the team would be like. They're probably actually a little bit better than what they would be like under Steve Kerr.
If you're going to speak to the media, to the public, and you're going to use big words and be loud and pump your chest, then you should be held accountable for your actions, for your words. And you will draw attention to yourself, for better or for worse. And that right there says it all. I know for myself, being an owner, I speak. I never had that many press conferences, but when I did, I said my piece, and I got ridiculed for it as I got older. I'm not around anymore, so we don't got to worry about what the media thinks of me, Old Man Davis. Jed York, you got a lot of years ahead of you, and those fans are going to be paying premium prices for those tickets. So you better either shut your mouth or think about what you're going to say when you're going to say it.
Absolutely. He's right. Old Man Davis. All right, gentlemen, moving on. Final topic of the evening. It's all about that money.
That bread.
That dinero.
Them skins.
That remuneration.
Bullion.
Treasure.
Cabbage.
Resources.
Wherewithal.
Coin.
Wampum.
Chicken feed.
Scratch.
Coinage.
Security.
Reserves.
Celery.
Investment.
Green stuff.
Oregano.
Legal tender.
Mazuma.
Relish.
Financing.
Lot.
Dead presidents.
Nest egg.
Investments.
Muchacho.
Bonzi.
Break a bill.
Old dirty bastard.
Ready assets.
MC8.
Four-leaf clover.
I got to get mine, so I'm going to get yours, yeah. All right, Raymond, break down where this week's matchup is going to be.
Okay, the 49ers are, you guessed it, traveling back to the East Coast, this time to face the New York Giants at MetLife Stadium on Sunday Night Football at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Daytime on NBC. Be there or be square. Boom. If you happen to be in New York, go to the Giants game, I guess.
Boom. So the San Francisco 49ers are 7-point underdogs against those mother effing New York Giants. The question is, Raymond, do you take that bet?
You do, and you're going to want to bet over, because this is a team in the New York Giants that just defeated the Buffalo Bills, was a top 10 defense last year, and is a top defense this year as well. But they just put up 24 points against them. They also were in a shootout with Atlanta, not necessarily known for their defense. However, something to keep in mind. And also, now we're going against the worst pass defense in the league. And so even though the Giants have an equally bad pass defense, the Niners are not in a position to take advantage of any of that, because they didn't do it against Arizona. They didn't do it against the Packers, and they're certainly not going to do it against the New York Giants. So yeah, you take that bet, and you want to make sure to go over, because they're going to beat them by at least 14 points.
Old Man Davis, New York Giants are 7-point favorites. Do you take that bet?
The New York Giants, with stock players like Eli Manning, Odell Beckham, and Rashad Jennings, I see the Giants having to play all 4 quarters of football if they're going to find a win at home against the 49ers. The Giants defense, not the same as last season, yet the best team, in my opinion, in the NFC East. And like the Vikings in Week 1, this should be a winnable game for the 49ers. But given that the Giants win against the Bills last week, scoring 24 points against that number 4 defense last season, Bills team, I don't see a problem with Eli Manning, one of the best quarterbacks in the league this season, to challenge the 49ers secondary. And if Victor Cruz is able to play side by side with Odell Beckham, this definitely will be a game 4 quarters to watch, because you have 2 mediocre teams where somebody has to win. And with the 49ers offense having the benefit of playing against the worst pass defense in the league, the Giants defense has the benefit playing against the league's worst pass offense. So all number 7 needs to do is be consistent, connect with those wide receivers, and not play the same game he had in Week 4. I might eat the words out of my mouth and lose in Vegas. But this week, I'm going to say well over 7. And a better points difference than what they had against the Packers.
At the end of the day, you have to work to get better.
Well, there it is. You gentlemen are both tied right now at 3-1 each on the betting.
It's going to be
lines.
4-1.
Well done. It's going to be 4-1. Eventually, one of you is going to be wrong. I can't wait. And hopefully, it's you, Old Man Davis.
You son of a bitch.
Raymond, where can they find
Giants
us?
have been known to collapse on themselves, so it could happen.
That's true. Raymond, where can they find us?
They can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/49ers Goldcast. Like us there. Stay on top of all of our topics. Comment. Hang out with us. You can also follow us on Twitter at 49ers Goldcast. Be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes and YouTube as well. That way you stay up to date on all the latest and greatest that come out of the red and gold. And you can find me on Twitter at Ray Solis. You can also follow me on Instagram at Ray Solis1. The official Raymond Solis, hence the one.
Bam. Don't forget, we've also moved on to Stitcher. We're brand new on Stitcher, so you can find us there as well. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Rudy Solis 3rd. Rudy Solis, number 3, RUDYSOLIS. Rudy Solis 3rd. Old Man Davis, where can they find you?
Last week you found me at Soldier Field with a prediction of 3-1. I ended up being 2-2, but this week you can find me on a Bronco, decapitating one by one those horsies at O.Co Stadium or Coliseum.
And last but certainly not least, as many of you know, the 49er Goldcast is disseminated through many 49er faithful Facebook fan pages. Social media is our primary mode of getting this Goldcast out. And we can never say thank you enough to all of the moderators of the Facebook fan pages out there. One we want to give a really big shout out to is Nate Payne from Niners Empire Forever. He has been allowing us to promote our Goldcast on there all the way back since last season. Remember that? Way back in the day. Nate Payne of Niners Empire Forever and that Facebook fan page. Raymond, how many people are on that page?
There is 6,312 members on that group.
Bam, there it is. Excellent. Well, so concludes another edition of the 49er Goldcast. We are the Bay Area Fan Perspective. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis I, baby.
And our esteemed co-host,
Old Man Davis.
Boom! We'll catch you guys next time. Same Goldcast time, same Goldcast channel.
Hey, I was able to get Joe Philbin on the phone. I think we could get an interview with him.
Yeah, I hear he's got a lot of free time now.
What would he do on here? Would he talk?
Tell us about his experience the last 4 games before he got fired. Maybe we can learn something.
So how did
we'll learn what not to do?
Hey, Joe Philbin, how'd you like a job?
You guys, that was so loud.